But this is the status quo going forward for the Marvel Universe and the X-Men especially. So, which is very apropos considering now that Disney and Marvel own them again.
Right. Came out at an interesting time. Or was it planned?
I'm pretty sure this was like the second they got their franchise back, they were like, go, go, go. Take out
the good shit.
Reboot that shit.
Again.
Again. Welcome back to the Hateful Geeks. I'm one of your many hosts, Phil.
This is Weenie.
And I'm Andy.
And we appear to be dropping like flies, gentlemen. Just like the X-Men.
Multiple man, where did you go?
Oh, thank you very much for tuning in to the Hateful Geeks. Once again, if you guys enjoy what we're doing, please smash that like button. Please subscribe. Hit us up on the Facebooks, the Instagram. Not so much Twitter. Fuck that shit. But anyway, we're very excited to be back because we have a new topic that we're very passionate about, very excited to share. For those of you that are in the know, have been enjoying comic books, or for those of you that are not really avid readers but love to hear stories third party, we are excited to talk this week about the reboot of the X-Men franchise in Marvel called House of X / Powers of X / Dawn of X / Orgies of X / X Goes to Seattle. I don't fucking know. There's new, basically a whole new slew of X titles. X-Men have gotten the Jonathan Hickman reboot specialty. And we are here to dissect and talk about what we've read. And whether or not you are into comics or not, you should be familiar with this new story because this could be the outline future for the X-Men in your favorite movie and or book franchises. So, gentlemen, I'm very pleased to reacquaint myself with you. X-Men, yes, let us talk about our favorite mutant characters, fictional
characters. Yeah, and just a forewarning, there might be spoilers in this, so you haven't read it yet and want to, maybe you should stop and go read and come back.
We're spoiling
we did wait until both House and Powers of X runs are completed.
Correct.
They're done.
Yes.
They are available on your local comic book shelf. There's 6 issues each. They literally intertwine together a story, so you can't read one without the other without making sense.
They weave a magical web.
That's how they get you money. And this time, I gotta say, I was fairly impressed. I'm not typically a Marvel fanboy.
No, this was very good. We always give Marvel a very hard time in their comic industry for just doing events. Just, here's an event. Continuity is kind of like on the back burner. Here's an event. A little bit of, it's always an event. This one is kind of like an event, but it's kicking off the new continuity of the X-Men, and so it's,
which I think is a smart take. Like you said, Marvel constantly is like alternate reality event. Like they did Age of X-Man, they did House of M, which was like what if Magneto ruled the world, and they did Age of Apocalypse. It's always some shit that doesn't matter 6 weeks later.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is the status quo going forward for the Marvel Universe and the X-Men especially. So, which is very apropos considering now that Disney and Marvel own them again.
Right. Came out at an interesting time. Or was it planned?
I'm pretty sure this was like the second they got their franchise back, they were like, go, go, go. Go, go, go.
Take out the good shit.
So this is actually pretty cool. Like, so anyone who's familiar with the X-Men universe knows you got Professor X, leader of the X-Men. You got Magneto, the more militant leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants. And you got Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen. They're like survival of the fittest. Fuck anyone weaker than us. And then you got like a slew of in between, like Mr. Sinister and every other mutant from fucking here to Krakoa. But now, in this new universe, all that shit is out the window. And I am very excited to talk about this. So, Professor X So you'd think Professor X would be like the key point of an X-Men title, right? No, this is all about Moira McTaggart. And anyone who's familiar with like First Class, or I mean, if you're not really a comic book reader and you know First Class, Moira McTaggart was the she should have been Scottish, but she's American, working for the CIA. That is not the case. This is like a Moira you've never seen before. Andy, like, so I mean, I think you're pretty familiar with Moira. Like, what about her character here is like really stuck out to you?
What this new not movie version, correct? Movie version, not a mutant. Comic book version, awesome mutant. So her mutant power is reincarnation. Which
is so weird, right? Because like all of her mutant powers are like this overt.
What even is weirder about it is that her memories, her consciousness, and everything in the womb. And she knows what's going on. She said you might think that might drive one mad, but she actually enjoys it.
And it's not just reincarnation, right? It kicks off an entirely new timeline, which is so weird. Like it literally puts her back in like where she was to relive the same life she had, but with
Groundhog Day
with all that same knowledge. And the entire timeline
that she's Bill Murray.
Yeah.
She's Bill Murray.
She's Bill Murray. That's her mutant power. She's Bill Murray, except instead of a day, it's a lifetime.
Or whenever she dies, it's like
she just resets her whole life over again.
Right.
Same Moira time, same Moira channel.
If you've seen the movie, what was that movie?
Groundhog Day?
No. It was the Tom Cruise movie. And he
Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah, he just kept dying in like battle. Then he'd come back and like know where things are going to happen now.
It's Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. It's based on a Japanese short novel called All You Need Is Kill.
Yeah,
it is also Groundhog Day, but there's more sci-fi robots and aliens and shit. So exactly, same concept. Yeah. Moira keeps rebooting,
and we kept calling this. We call it House of X, Powers of X, and that's what everyone calls it because it's an X-Men. Marvel kept trying to say in the beginning it's actually Powers of 10. And everyone's like, it's Powers of X. So like, no, it's Powers of 10. And obviously 10 is because of how many lives Moira gets.
Yes. So the basic premise is like this. Now, this is a very interesting Hickman book. Books, I guess I should say plural, because there's 12 different issues here. Mm-hmm. And it really plays with timeline. It is not a linear storytelling. It's very much like different snippets. The first 2 issues alone are the different like lives that Moira has gone through, but like little pieces of them. And then later on you're seeing like, okay, so Powers of X focuses on 3 specific timelines. Year 0, which is the dream, like leading up to Charles Xavier coming up with what he wants to do for mutant kind. Year 1, which is like setting up the X-Men. And then year 10, which is the X-Men are in full throttle. And then year 1000, which is like 1,000 years after all that shit has gone down.
Right.
So this all plays into like how the Sentinels come into play. How the birth of AI is usually the dawn of destruction for mutants because Sentinels, master molds, mother molds, they all wake up and they end up killing mutants by the millions. So House of X focuses on these different timelines and these different snippets from the lives Moira's led. And then House of X focuses a little bit more on the new continuity, the here and now of what's taking place in Life 10,
right?
Power of 10. So it's focusing much more on like what we have to look forward to. I'd say one of the most interesting things here is Moira's progression. She starts off, her life 0 is she lives a normal, perfectly unexciting
she has no idea that she's a
life.
mutant. She doesn't think she has anything special about her. She thinks she's just a normal person, lives a full life, happy life, has family, kids, grandkids, dies when she's like 80 or something.
Heart attack, 74.
Yeah.
Yep, she's old in her bed. She just croaks it. And then wakes up in utero, and Andy's right. There's a very cool explanation about how being trapped inside of the uterus for 9 months, aware of a whole lifetime, could drive a person mad. She talks about how there's like chemical bliss,
yeah,
and there's nowhere warmer or safer than inside than being a baby and your mama. And I'm like, that's kind of cool and good job, because I would have gone insane. So,
Yeah.
So that was a good. I'm glad somebody mentioned that, because how do you not? You're stuck. There's no TV. There's no Hateful Geeks. Like, what are you gonna do in there for 9 months?
Right. I did like
So
that, and I also liked. What was it? Oh, she talks about how her parents just thought that she was special, like she was gifted, smart, or whatever, and like she like would progress through that. Like we bumped up in high school, moved up to college, get into these great schools, all this stuff. I'm like, that makes sense.
I mean, she comes off as a child prodigy,
Right.
because she can basically walk, talk, and speak like right out of the gate. I mean, she's got to wait for her muscles to kick in, but otherwise she knows how to do everything right off the bat.
Right.
And so, of course, with this knowledge, she's like, well, what the hell am I? And that leads her down like the path of what the fuck. Like, she starts off as like a neurobiologist trying to understand like how her mind works this way.
Mm-hmm.
And then that life fucks up. Then she learns about Charles Xavier through like going to school. And then the next life, she's like, oh, I got to go meet this guy. And dies on an airplane to America on her way to meet him.
Wasted.
Life 3 was a waste. Life 4, she's like, all right, she finally meets him and thinks he's an arrogant prick.
Yeah.
And decides that she's going to focus on genetics. And that's the life where she develops a mutant cure.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, mutants don't like it when you try to cure them, because they're not sick. And they're that's like, we'll get the, you know what, this is not going to be a heavy episode. We're not going to talk about all that crazy politics shit.
She kind of views her gift as a curse at that point, wants to be cured of it, and then she thinks that everybody would feel the same way.
They're like, hey, dumbass,
Exactly.
they're going to use that to wipe us all out.
Right.
So Mystique shows up with Destiny, and for those of you not familiar with Destiny, she's this chrome dome mutant who can see the future.
Right. But she's also blind.
Exactly. She can't see anything else but the future.
But when she sees Moira, it just looks like everything ends at Moira, so she really can't see her at all.
Yeah, she's like a black hole in the time stream,
Yeah.
because she's
Ever-changing.
Groundhog.
Yeah.
Exactly. She is like this weird. It's called documentarians use it. It's called like the viewer effect, or the it'll come to me later, I'm sure. But like when you're watching something, you have an immediate effect on it, whether you're directly involved
The bystander
or not.
effect.
A bystander effect, something along that lines. The documentarians worry about it all the time because it corrupts their data that they're
Right.
trying to document. So she realizes that just by knowing what's going to take place, she's changing the time stream. So Destiny and Mystique have flat out like killed all the other scientists working on the mutant cure and told her like, this isn't going to happen again, because if it does, we're going to find you when you're like 9 and your mutant power hasn't kicked in, and we're going to put a stop to you reincarnating.
Mm-hmm.
So you got like 11 tries tops before you fuck this up for good, Moira.
11 is only if you make the right choice in your 10th.
Yeah, if you make the right choice in 10, then you'll have an 11th life. After that, who knows? But then what do? They make Pyro burn her alive.
Slowly.
Make sure she remembers
Right.
this. It's so brutal.
So that is one of the other things that I loved about this series. The art is amazing.
The art's very good.
Her getting torched like that, all of her deaths, especially the multiple times that Logan has to end her. And the second time he's just like, she's like, I know. And he's like, yep, it's just what I do. This is me. This is what I do. And he just guts her right there. And I'm just like, yes. And the visual of it is great. The other amazing one that I really loved was when Apocalypse agrees to Charles' terms of like, if you're going to be here, you're here as like one of us. There is no killing anymore. There's none that you have to agree. And Apocalypse is like, all right, I agree. And when they shake hands, it shows how massive Apocalypse is into comparison of Xavier.
Yeah, it's like shaking a baby hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Andy's jumping around.
Yeah, he is.
Time streams.
I was just talking about the art.
There is a lot of good art. And
Yeah.
there's the story, the dialogue is very well done for all the characters. Like, you really feel the personalities coming through, especially Apocalypse, who's like, I don't care about your tiny matters kind of person. And you have Magneto, who's very much straight to the point, authoritative, and you even see the dynamic of Xavier in like when he's on the bench talking to Moira comparative to when his plan's in full throttle.
Magneto's always been in Marvel's eyes. He's Malcolm X. Professor X is Martin Luther King, and Apocalypse is like a militant Darwin.
Yeah.
Like these are like the stances they've taken, like because that's what X-Men is. X-Men is the civil rights movement for
Right, it was.
the Marvel
It was.
universe.
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing of like Moira's life progression through like lives 4 through 9. She like I'll go join Charles
Right.
because Charles is he's got this benign future of like coexistence between human and mutants, and she joins him and tells him like the future she's seen and helps his vision. And of course the fucking Sentinels show up and genocide mutants, and she's like, oh, we're fucked. All right, life number 2. I'll go join Magneto because those gosh darn Sentinels and humankind fucking it up, and the Magneto gets taken down by the Avengers and the X-Men and everybody.
Right.
And then Sentinels.
Sentinels.
No more Sentinels.
Well, then she does a whole life where she kills trash.
All the trash.
All the trash.
Yes.
The trash.
So at that point, after she's fucked up, she's had a wasted a life on Charles. She's wasted a life on Magneto. She's like, all right, Sentinels are the problem. I'll kill the entire Trask family. So instead of going to school, she becomes like a fucking assassin and like snipes them, like cuts them. She just like destroys every Trask in existence. Sentinels still get me.
Sentinels happen.
She said it's just a mindset.
It's Skynet, baby.
Yeah, it will happen.
We had a whole episode about this. If you don't listen to Hateful Geeks, go listen to our episode about AI. It's inevitable, and they will turn on you. Do not trust them. Throw your smartphone
We
away
saw
right
this
now.
coming.
So she does that. That doesn't work. So then she does the unthinkable. She's like, I've tried Charles, I've tried Magneto, I've tried killing all the Trask. I'm going to Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
And she like gives Apocalypse a skinny on like everything. She's like, we're fucked if we don't stop this. Apocalypse rededicates himself to like destroying AI to make sure it never fucking happens. And that's where you get, that's kind of the cool thing. A lot of the timeline that you see in Powers of X of like the Rasputin is her name. She's like a mutant that like has a bunch of different powers. She was genetically engineered by Mr. Sinister. You think that that's like the future of what's going to happen no matter what. That is the future of Life 9 Life 8. I'm sorry, that's Life 8 where she is the Apocalypse future. We're just going to call it the I joined Apocalypse future. So it's a weird one where Nimrod and Sentinels have taken over Earth. Mankind are enslaved by Sentinels.
Right.
And
they have like the
mutants
religion of Sentinels.
Yeah, well, that's year 1000.
Oh, is that?
That's
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
it jumps around.
That's okay. It's hard. Believe me, this is why we're doing this episode. This is hard to keep track. This is X to 100.
Yeah, and then you have like Wolverine. You have Rasputin.
Wolverine is a 4 horsemen.
Yeah.
The 4 horsemen are Wolverine, Krakoa, who's merged with Cypher.
Yeah.
And become like a humanoid version of Krakoa. Shorn, XORN, he's the Horseman of Death. And then what looks like Green Magneto.
Right.
But it's a character and its name is North. And in this future, it's a chimera. It's Magneto's DNA, Polaris's DNA, and I don't read the comic. I don't know. Mr. Sinister likes to mix and match that shit.
He does.
It's gross.
He also makes multiple copies of himself, which is hysterical.
He is the Dr. Moreau of mutants.
It reminded me of that episode of Rick and Morty when she locks her friend in her play world, which wasn't really a play world, and he kept.
I know what you're talking about.
He kept fucking all the
Fruit
animals
Land.
and making like replicas of himself.
Fruity Land.
Yeah, Fruity Land.
Was it my best work? Maybe not. Do I deserve to be shit on creatively? No.
That's Mr. Sinister.
That's Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, no, and he's like always assassinating himself. Like Mr. Sinister has become like a comedy relief villain, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because I've always seen him as like the 90s animated series, Mr. Sinister, like sharp teeth and, oh God, Cyclops' power. Like, I'm a vampire, but am I not? I don't know what I am. am I T-1000 with a weird cape? Probably. No, now he's just like a genetic mastermind.
Right.
Like Andy said, he's the Dr. Moreau, which makes perfect sense. It's a good analogy. Yeah, she never once goes to Sinister in any of her lives.
No.
She doesn't.
No.
I don't think he
Doesn't
has
join
that
him.
kind of pull.
Like, if you're going to go to
maybe he was-
either Sinister or Apocalypse, it's always going to be Apocalypse.
I mean, doesn't Sinister technically work for Apocalypse?
Exactly.
On
So
some level.
why go to middle management when you could go right to the boss?
Yeah, good call. It makes sense. I mean, I guess technically the life where but she looks cool in that lifetime because
she does.
she becomes like Lady Apocalypse.
Right.
She looks like a girl version of
Yeah,
Apocalypse.
she's got the A on the belt. Up
Well,
on
and
the
that's when
collar.
Wolverine they finally get the information they're looking for, and he just like plugs it into her.
So yeah, that plot line is like the new Horseman. Wolverine's the Horseman of War, which
Yeah.
is amazing. And they storm Nimrod's castle, but they're not going to kill Nimrod or stop this future. They're going to get information to find out the exact date that the Nimrod AI, is born
Right.
in reality, so that they can take that and use that information to stop it from happening, which leads us to Life 10, the new primary continuity where Moira has gone to Charles and flat out told him to his face, your dream fails. You are a pussy. Your dream of coexistence and happy unicorns and pretty flowers and everyone getting along is never going to
Doesn't
happen.
happen.
You get us all killed. What a kick in the nuts.
But then Charles.
Could you imagine
Dude, Charles
the love
finally
of your life?
embraces it.
Could you imagine the love of your life, like that you didn't know was the love of your life, coming up to you and you're like young, full of hope for the future, and
Still
she just flat
walking.
out says, "Your dreams are stupid.
Like,
Your
not
dream
going to
is
happen.
dumb."
Yeah. And she even tells that to him. She said, my truth is a hard pill to take. Like, it will reset your entire reality. And he kind of does. He just kind of accepts it, realizes the new switch flicks on. And he's like, all right, this is what we have to do.
Yeah, he goes to Magneto and he's like, let's do it.
Yeah, well, he
Yeah,
has to
man. And the cool thing about Xavier is he knows she's telling the truth because he reads her mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is
And he gets like a hardcore feedback loop, like
because she says, I opened up my mind to him for the first time and let him just see all my knowledge. Yeah, that's innuendo.
yeah,
Yeah.
Anyway, so Charles knows exactly what happens. He's seen the Apocalypse future. That's the great thing. We as a reader have seen all the different Moira timelines, and now Charles has that knowledge
Right.
too. And that's some omnipotent level shit right there. So yeah, he goes to Magneto and says, "We either fail apart or we succeed together."
Right.
And convinces him, like, I see your point of view. My way doesn't work, but your way doesn't work either. We need to find something new. Smart.
Well, then
it's fucking brilliant.
And then she shows him all the ways he fails. Like, he literally breaks Magneto and shows him every possible way he was even thinking of doing it, and it failing each time.
You can't be militant, but you can't be a complete pacifist either. Like, somewhere in the middle, this has to work. And so they've joined forces. They've figured out a plan, and their plan is, and this is so obscure, and I'd be amazed if you're not a hardcore comic book fan. If you knew about this, I'd be very impressed. But Krakoa is a living mutant island on Earth that Giant Size X-Men #1 was its first appearance, and that's the big X-Men comic from back in the day that like where you first see like the
new
Wolverine, Colossus,
Yeah.
Storm team,
Storm,
going to
Nightcrawler,
save-
Colossus.
yeah.
All
They
their
go to
first
save
appearances.
the original 5, Cyclops, Angel, Beast, who have been captured on this evil sentient mutant island, Krakoa. Mm-hmm. So Krakoa has been brought back, and now it's
It's an it. I mean,
Them.
It's
them.
an it.
They.
them.
It.
It's singular. It's got
Yeah.
one mind. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we can do plural, but it looks good with it.
Yeah.
It has basically offered itself to be like the new mutant
Right.
homeland.
It's like a mutant island.
Right. And like Professor X brings Cypher to the island to talk to
Yeah,
the
he's
planet.
like, hey, I need you to translate
And
this.
it's really funny because like he's like, oh, it's going to take me. I need a little bit more. And Professor Xavier says, well, it's sad. And he's like, you're just kind of getting the feeling, right? And he's like, well, is it not sad? And he like goes, he just lists off this entire history within like 5 minutes of like talking to this planet. And like Apocalypse is involved, and it used to be bigger, and it got split in half, and all these things rose up, and blah 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 blah.
That's Cypher's mutant power.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
can
yeah.
speak any language. It's amazing. And you think that's kind of a lame like power, but Cypher's kind of proven how like the level that goes to.
Right.
Like he can communicate with anything.
And then they made their own he made their own language that they could all be implanted with upon arriving, so that they could
exactly.
speak their...
So X1, year one, Xavier takes Cypher to Krakoa to start building the foundation of like a Krakoan nation, languages. How do we get there? What kind of abilities can Krakoa? What can they do? Basically, kind of like what do we have at our disposal to make this work?
Right.
So like modern times, House of X1 opens up with the mutants have established the nation of Krakoa, where all mutants, and this is super Magneto plan, by the way.
Yeah.
It is.
They stole this from Magneto's playbook. This is Asteroid M. This is Genosha. This is Utopia. This is every time the mutants have tried to like make their own place, and then it gets fucking bushwhacked. Mm-hmm. Did it again. Well, this time I guess it's gonna work.
This time he has the backing of Professor X, which I feel like he's always the antithesis to his plan.
And they got sweet flower portals.
They do.
Yes. So Krakoa has like different plants that God, it's so weird. It can grow a flower that makes a teleportation field that lets
Back
you go
home.
to Krakoa.
Yeah.
So you can live anywhere and always be able to get back home.
Exactly.
And it also
Like,
has plans for medicine. It has plans for everything.
Which leads to
So
Professor X making the meds as his bargaining chip.
Exactly. So they've used Krakoa to develop drugs that extend human life, eliminate psychopathology, which means no more schizophrenia, depression,
Right.
any of that shit. That's all gone. Cures cancer
Yep.
Influenza.
and influenza and the common cold.
Any
Anything.
illness that would bring mortal to death to a human, literally.
Yep. So these drugs basically like will save humanity from all the shit that ails us.
Right.
On the condition.
Right.
Yeah, so this is the fucked up part. Typically, the Professor X we all know and love would be like, here you go,
would give it
humans.
out.
I love
Yeah.
you.
And he says that. He says, usually I would gift this to you, but you've shown
But
me.
now you have to pay.
Well, he said that you've shown me that I can't trust you. You've shown me that you're always going to be, you're not going to love us. You're not going to accept us. You're not going to give us what we want. So you have to pay.
So they literally establish right off the bat with the UN. The UN will recognize the sovereignty of Krakoa as a sovereign nation with their own rights and their own. Anyone who's a
Their own
mutant is
laws.
immediately a citizen. And if they do so, they will have access to trading for these drugs.
Mm-hmm. And like every mutant's immediately granted amnesty. So like,
Ooh,
Yeah.
and that's a hard point for a lot of countries to swallow.
yeah. So anything that they may have done bad, he says, anything that they may have done bad to you, you must grant them amnesty for at least a couple of years, so we can try to get them out of that bias, out of that pressure situation, to see if they're really a good person. We'll judge them on our end.
One of the pages that kind of looked like a part of the report shows which countries agree to his demands. And Wakanda was one that did not, because Wakanda was like, we don't even need your drugs.
Right. Wakanda's like, we got this.
We're cool.
Which is fine though, because I don't see Black Panther and
No.
the Kingdom of Wakanda having a problem with mutants declaring sovereignty.
They already have their own.
Yeah,
kind
they're
of,
like, we already did this.
Right.
We're cool.
I mean, Wakanda probably sees it as a yeah, man, go for it.
Right.
But at the same time, they're not deal. They don't. But Krakoa doesn't have leverage over them,
Right.
which makes them a
Exactly.
problem.
yeah. Yeah.
China was like, "Woo, we want them drugs."
Right.
Yes.
And I do like those inserts. They have in a lot of details. I like that, like those maps. They also have like the different like levels of certain like AIs. They have the different levels of mutants. They have like
The dossiers throughout the
Yeah.
comic are very descriptive. They go into a lot of like the backstory, the politics,
Right.
The like what this like. They do like a lot of definitions
Mm-hmm.
for things that are really out there. Like like you said, like what level a hive mind is and how when does it become God?
Right, exactly.
Basically,
yeah, and I even like once we get there towards the end, but that you have like Moira's notebook that she like writes down all her interactions with like Xavier and Magneto, and like documents this whole process, which is really neat to like read through. Some of them are redacted, which I think is funny.
one of my favorites was the Red Diamond, which is Mr. Sinister's like
Yeah.
gossip rag.
Yes.
Where he's talking shit about like all the like each one. There's all these different stories. He never names names, but you know who the fuck he's talking about. And I'm not going to go through it. It's really cool spoilers, but a lot of them are very funny.
Right.
And Sinister's take on, like, especially on Cyclops and Wolverine and Jean Grey and Emma Frost are very, very entertaining. It's young. For those of you wondering who are big Cable fans, it's young Cable in this timeline, as old Cable was killed in a previous story arc by young Cable.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
One of my
weird.
favorite
Time travel.
One of my favorite little small like funny moments in this story, because there's not a whole lot of them, but one of my favorite ones is where every nation starts to accept Xavier's plea deal. Like it's not even a plea; it's just like, this is what's happening. So once they start to officially accept it, Sabretooth has been imprisoned by humans because he killed some guards as they were going in, which he was told by Magneto, "Do not kill. Go in, get what I need, get out."
They were specifically there to steal information that's like it's like Stark Richards technology that they need for
So they can figure out how to
stopping
stop Nimrod.
for like a different plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were stealing. They were doing something
Yeah,
bad.
they were doing something bad.
stealing
Sabretooth did it, what Sabretooth does. He kills the guards, he hacks them all up. So the humans get him, and they're like, all right, he's on trial in the Supermax prison. And Emma Frost walks in, and she's like, yeah, he has amnesty now. He's coming with me. And they're like, no, they're not. Yeah, you guys just agreed to it, so fuck off.
Right.
He's
Yeah,
ours.
but even before that, when they're actually escaping from the facility where they stole the information, when Toad's the hacker.
Yeah. Right.
Since when is Toad?
That's what I thought too.
hacker?
I was like, since when when can Toad do this? I didn't know this was him.
You had Toad, Mystique, and Sabretooth grouped up there. I was like, what kind of throwback homage is this to the first X-Men movie?
Right. Yeah.
It's awesome, dude. It's the first fight. It's like it's the original Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And they're doing Magneto's bidding on this like secret
Just
mission.
missing the
but
blob.
yeah, Mystique and Toad escape, but the Fantastic Four show up
Right.
and like stop Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Then Cyclops comes out of the portal from Krakoa and he's like, "Hey, I heard you got married, thing. Mazel tov."
Right.
And then he's like, "How are you guys doing? By the way, I'm going to need Sabretooth." And they're like, "The fuck you say?" He was like, "The fuck I say." That's correct. Like Cyclops is amazing now. Cyclops is like a true believer. He is, if anything, like before, you'd say he was like the Boy Scout. Now he's like I wouldn't say brainwashed, but he is on board with he is snorting the Hope Coke line.
Yeah.
He's like, "This is the future. We're going to be great. I love Krakoa."
Yeah, and he's actually named a top general of the new Krakoan
Yeah, the
hierarchy.
head captain.
So he has
he's
all.
a war captain.
Yeah, he's like has essentially all this trust in him, and we'll get there to where he gets important later.
I was a little surprised he didn't get a seat on the council.
I'm actually not. He makes more sense. Like him and Wolverine are
need to keep
field
him out
operatives.
there.
That's what
That's where they.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, it makes sense to me because he's always been like a true leader. Like he can lead troops. If they need somebody, he's not so much like a decision maker.
Remember the last time he tried to be a messiah after the Phoenix 5 incident, and he was like
Kinda went to
getting
his
his
head.
powers back, and he just fucked all that up and got a bunch of people killed. I don't think Summers is really on for that kind of job again.
No, he's not.
He's happier going in and taking down a small platoon of whatevers and calling it a day. He's a team leader, not a CEO.
Right.
No.
That's basically how I looked at it.
The Fantastic Four give him the finger.
Yeah.
They're like, "We're not giving you Sabretooth. Fuck you."
He's
He's
like,
like, "You know what?
All right.
I can't take you all
can
on.
have him." And
Because he knew. He was like,
Sabretooth's like,
"We'll
"Fuck
get
you.
him."
Get me out of
Yeah,
here.
he did. He was like, Summers. He's like,
Sorry, bye.
Bye.
But yeah,
He's
then
like, "Eat a dick."
then Frost
Commander
comes
Creed.
in. My favorite part of that whole scene was where the girl pulls the gun on Frost, and she's like, since we have amnesty and we're supposed to be working together, I'm just gonna pretend you didn't do that, and also pretend that I couldn't stop you and turn it on yourself. So
yeah, she's like, I could take that gun and make you shove it where the last place
Right.
your boyfriend was.
yeah,
Like, ooh. And she was like,
Emma
we'll
Frost does
pretend
not
you
fuck
actually could have
around, and
stopped.
Right.
you got her. She's like a pissier Xavier with that ability, that telepathy, mind control.
Right.
She's perfectly happy to make you butt fuck yourself with an M16.
right. Yeah, she's
Pull the
kind of a
trigger till it goes
badass, but
click.
she knows it.
Oh, she's always been a badass, man. Emma Frost is super awesome. You don't see much of her diamond form, which
say,
is kind of interesting.
She's now the White Queen.
Yes, well, she always was the
Right.
White
Yeah,
Queen,
she's the
but
White
now
Queen.
she's like
Officially
White Queen.
right. And then the Red King.
Which they haven't
So this is
announced
interesting. So they've gone and formed the government of mutants, and it's a 14-seat council.
Correct.
Krakoa and Cypher automatically sit on it,
Right.
as everyone else is technically sitting on them,
Right.
which makes sense. What's the Autumn table, Andy? Is that
Autumn,
what you said?
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Autumn
Magneto,
is Magneto.
Xavier, and Apocalypse.
yet.
Correct.
Apocalypse.
Oh, you know what? Before we even get to this point, so they've established the government, they've established the location, they've established an agreement with the UN, and they've given it a worldwide invitation to all mutants. All mutants.
Correct.
Doesn't matter how fucked up a mutant, or how evil. Exodus. You guys remember Exodus from the Acolytes? He's an Omega level telekinetic.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
Invited.
fucking super powerful.
The only ones that aren't invited are, or at least, well, they're not invited, but they don't want there are the ones that can see the future.
Yeah, no mutant that can see the future is permitted on Krakoa.
Right.
But there aren't a lot of them. Destiny was one.
Right.
But Destiny is dead in this timeline.
Dead.
Super dead.
We'll get to that later. Why we say dead, but we'll get there later.
Yeah, like dead for good, dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, Apocalypse shows up. Mr. Sinister and the Wild Boys show up. Like it is every
Hellfire
evil
Club.
fuck. The Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah, who was the member that was on the council that looked like an old timey like Englishman?
That's Sebastian.
Sebastian
That's
Shaw.
Sebastian Shaw. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I never.
Kevin Bacon.
I never
Kevin
really.
Bacon
No, that's
for you
okay.
movie
Yeah,
watchers.
I remember Kevin Bacon
with the coif.
Yeah, but I was like, why? I just didn't really put two and two together, and they didn't really acknowledge it. I didn't think about it. It was just kind of like, wait a second, who was that?
It's not the same as Kevin Bacon. Like so.
Yeah.
God, I love that. I love what we're saying.
Kevin
Kevin
Bacon.
Bacon's on the council.
Kevin
It's like
Bacon.
Footloose. Is it still the greatest movie ever?
Never was.
Yeah,
No. So yeah, in comic book
and
canon, Sebastian Shaw's power is he's mastermind.
Right.
He can make you see any illusion that he wants, and he can portray any illusion that he wants. Not like in the movie where he could absorb energy and then redirect it. That's
not him.
well, that's a really awesome power. That's not what
That's not him.
what Mastermind actually
and
does.
and, I,
That's not
and
what-
just so for listeners know too, I don't normally read comics at all. Like it's not my thing. I like the pretty colors, the covers. I like the way they look. I've never really been a big comic book reader. And then when we decided to do this episode, Phil and Andy were like, you have to read it too. I was like, fine, I'll do it. I actually extremely enjoyed this. So like even for you out there that are like, I'm not really a comic book reader, this plot line, it's almost like its own movie. It plays off really well.
This also, if you want to start somewhere, like you could get in now on the ground level of a new
Right.
story.
And that's what I was gonna say. It's literally you're not missing anything. Maybe some of the character names you might be like, well, who's that? But like you're literally starting at the new creation of this entire timeline, which is awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
It really no, you're exactly right. I love that you bring that up. This is a great jumping point for new readers because and Hickman's a lot of people have mixed feelings about Hickman and his previous work, but I tend to let each story stand on its own. Like I like Dan Slott only because I loved Superior Spider-Man. Some of his other stuff is shit. but this is Hickman at its finest. Hickman's doing a good job with this. He's maintained a lot of the things you love about the X-Men, but brought them into a brand new circumstance, which kind of really paints them in new ways, which is fun. And as you said, this really does kind of read like an awesome movie.
It does. It almost reminds me
love
of
to see
like
this as a trilogy.
I don't know. I don't know. It's almost like I was gonna say. It's not quite Memento, but it kind of is. Like
It is almost a Days of Future Past on steroids.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
and like what Phil said at the very beginning, the main center of this is not necessarily Professor X or Magneto. It's Moira. It's like all about this one person that's connecting every timeline together. And it just you don't know where it's going to go next. You don't really know what timeline really connects with what timeline until you get like to the end of that story. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. It kept me like I binged it in like one day. I didn't like stop.
I read it this morning because I wanted it fresh in my brain, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so good."
I've reread it 4 times. I have a problem.
I mean,
I'm not getting a lot of work done these days.
I didn't get the comics when this came out. Like, I got burned on X-Men Red, X-Men Blue, X-Men Gold, X-Men White, X-Men Black. I was trying to get into those, and I was like, I can't. There was no coherent thought to all these different X books. So then I was like, I'm not getting in on this because it's just another event. It's another. Now I'm trying to go back and find, which is going to be hard, the first prints of all these earlier issues.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. To eBay.
This is why I can't spend money on it. I get my I do, but I get my digitally comics. I don't do my hard copies unless it's a collector's edition of some kind. But yes. So back to this amazing arc. For the first time in X-Men history, and since the inception of all the comics, all mutants are united on one front. Apocalypse has laid down arms. Mr. Sinister's agreed to their terms. Every single villain, if you have an X gene and you're living on Krakoa, you are under one roof, united for one singular goal, and that is the protection and proliferation of mutant kind.
Yeah, and they even
it is unheard of.
Yeah, and while they're on this council, they lay out like their principles, right? They start talking about, we'll say we have a place.
Laws.
Yeah, we have a council. We have a place. We need to set our standard. And
It's smart. You've determined your leadership. Now you need to determine the laws of your
Right.
Start
land.
writing your constitution.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so the very first one is what is it?
Do not kill humans.
Right. They say don't kill.
Let's go over the rest of the council before we get to the laws.
Okay.
We've got the main seat, the autumn seat, is Xavier, Magneto, and Apocalypse, the three biggest badasses in mutant time. Then you've got what is it? Spring, which is Storm, Nightcrawler, and Marvel Girl, Jean Grey.
Jean Grey, yeah.
That's like 2 Omega level mutants right there, and then a Nightcrawler.
And then a Nightcrawler with a sword.
Xavier says they're my children; they'll do well.
Right.
Like he's taught to, like they're his 3 brightest students, basically. Then you've got like another C, which is Sebastian Shaw, the Black King. You've got Emma Frost, the White Queen.
That's Winter.
And
Yeah. And then they have a red
that's Winter?
king.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they haven't
the
announced
empty
who the
seat
red
is the
king
Red
is yet.
King.
She hasn't picked who's going to be her third seat.
Yeah, that seat is empty for now. The other one is Exodus, Mr. Sinister, and Gorgon.
Yeah.
And they're the 3 like wild card assholes. And Xavier's like, we had to keep all of our shitheads in one place,
Right. He's
basically.
like, we might as well keep them close to us
Yeah.
because
Keep them.
you don't know what they're going to do.
They're all incredibly powerful, and they have sway.
Right.
So I mean, what is that 3, 6, 9?
Well, you also got Cypher and
Cypher Krakoa.
Krakoa.
And I want to say this just because I thought it was funny to me.
Yeah, that's 12.
When in the timeline when you have Cypher and Krakoa being the same being, like a sentient walking around being instead of a planet.
It's kind of like Jabba the Hutt with 3PO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He Cypher's his translator.
In my mind, I was thinking, wait, is that Groot? Because I was like, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't.
Is that North that kind of looks like a Groot-esque?
No, North is Green Magneto.
No, yeah.
Who's the one that looks
That was what I
kind of
talked
like
about.
a...
Cypher and
The guy who
Krakoa
looks like
were-
Groot, that's Cypher and Krakoa
Oh, so when they
combined.
merge
Yeah,
into
that's
one...
I was just
Okay.
talking about that.
Yeah.
Where were
Pay
you?
attention,
No, I
Andy.
didn't pick up on that. Even when I was just like, who is this weird?
I thought it was like, that's like Groot now? Like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah, it works.
But yeah, so that's the council, right? And then, like we said, they had the laws. And the very first law they make is to never kill another human because they want to make sure that they have like this. It's sacred.
Gentlemen,
Like,
kind
we
of-
don't fuck
we
with
s-
them. They don't fuck
Right.
with us.
Well, there's a big reason for this, and we skipped over it because it's kind of a massive reveal. Because the X-Men, we talked about this a little bit, where in Life 9, she finds the date that Nimrod and the AI are created,
Right.
And they give that date, and Moira gives that to the Council. She gives that to Charles and Magneto, and they send like the A team. They
The
send
X-Men.
Wolverine, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, Archangel, Mystique, fucking Monet, who's like, good luck if you know who that X-Men
Right.
Right, like Monet,
is.
but she like turned into like a
Porcupine.
porcupine, which they kind of
Pretty
had
much.
in
A
one
badass looking porcupine.
of the X-Men. They had that, but
And I think they sent Kitty Pryde too. I'm
So to
trying
me,
to remember all of them.
This is the battle of the master mold.
Yeah, so they go to Orcus, which is so humans, every single agency on Earth, we're talking SHIELD, SWORD, AIM, Strike, Hydra,
Hammer.
like every Hammer, all the fucking like big time human super spy agencies have all joined forces because of mutants basically declaring like you ain't gonna fuck with us anymore ever again. And they've gone to a space station orbiting the sun,
Right.
because that's possible. Whatever.
That's how it gets its
fuckers.
energy.
Fictional character.
Fictional story, Phil. Fictional story. I know. I'm trying. But yeah, so they go there, and you find out that it's a mother mold, which makes master molds,
Right.
Which makes Nimrods,
Right.
Which makes Sentinels. So basically, like, humankind's are like, we're gonna make the ultimate fucking murder bots, and we're gonna kill mutants once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
Professor X is like, oh, by the way, I have an insider from the future, so suck my balls.
Right.
Yeah. He's like, I know where
Send
you
them in
are.
a Blackbird through a teleporter to the sun to basically wipe out the possible creation of Nimrod that will destroy mutant kind. It is a complete and utter success, except for the fact it is a suicide
Right.
mission.
It is
Because
100%
nobody came out of that
suicide.
shit alive.
Right.
They even know it because
There's
they say we are not taking seeds to come back to Krakoa because we don't want them to have the ability to follow us.
Well, not just that, because say they fail and they have the seed now the mastermind would know that, oh, this is what you're doing,
Yeah.
and like completely destroy the whole plan.
We can't take it. And to me, this is probably the peak. This is your climax battle. This is where it all has to happen, and it does not live down at all. Like this thing
Right.
was amazing.
Yeah, you have them all connecting with Professor X, and he's like spanning millions of miles to get into all their heads, and they're communicating this whole telepathy. They're communicating the whole time. Then you have shit hit the fan. You know, the one guard blows up the ship. Archangel dies immediately,
Yeah, they took out like like 2 or 3 members of their squad
like
off the
right
bat.
off the bat.
And so at this point in time, they're like, we're going to bum rush these
Right.
fuckers. We don't have a choice.
So then Nightcrawler.
Well, the Master Mold looks like a giant sentinel head that is
Right.
orbiting the sun, and they have it like connected to the space dock around it, like that's a ring. So the best way to describe this, if you haven't read it yet, which I don't know why you haven't, think of Star Wars where Obi-Wan's trying to turn off the tractor beams, so he finds these levers. They all have to go in a different direction to a different section and pull the lever to release the head.
Right.
And they succeed on 3.
Right.
They don't get number 4.
Nightcrawler bamps them all over to the different sectors because they have the plan, so he knows where he's going. He bamps them in there, and so like, Scott Summers does his, and Mystique tries to do hers.
Mystique is the one that failed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Wolverine succeeds on his first one.
Correct.
Cyclops succeeds on his first one. Nightcrawler and Jean Grey succeed on theirs. Mystique fucks up and gets sucked into the vacuum of space.
Yeah, so Mystique's gone now.
So she's dead. This is
This
dead.
is continuity.
She's dead.
She's dead.
So then the last one they see, they can't get to it because it's obviously the vacuum's still open, so they can't go in there to pull the lever. So Wolverine turns Nightcrawler and he says, "I can get you there." And Wolverine's like, "Let's do this." So that he bamps
Yeah, but
them.
then they have that really like sweet moment of like,
Oh, yeah,
is there a
yeah.
God?
Yeah, he's like, so is my soul going to go somewhere after this? And he was like, well, I'll see you there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
actually
Nightcrawler's
really
like, wherever we're going, buddy,
Yeah,
I'll be
I'll
there,
be
and
there.
I'll be there for you.
yeah, it's like a really cute like moment. He's like, "I'll be there waiting for you with open arms." I was like, "Oh." So
Bros.
but yes,
Nightcrawler is a badass.
Nightcrawler is a badass. So he does it. He bamps out there. You see the image.
Orbiting the sun.
Nightcrawler immediately evaporates. Like
Poof.
Vaporized.
Disintegrate.
Just
I
done.
don't know if
And then you
can a body evaporate?
it did.
It just goes poof.
It just poofed.
Vaporized.
And then you see Wolverine. Everything is just flying off of his skin, just burning off of him. Obviously,
But he's like regenerating fast enough to
I don't know
somehow
if he's
keep
regenerating
them
fast
together.
enough, or if it's just the fact that the adamantium is literally protecting his organs and every vital thing to keep him from.
I mean, it's coming pretty close.
Yeah.
Like, he's like regenerating flesh as fast as it's burning
Right.
off.
Yeah, it's
And he's
So, yeah,
he's fucked up.
He's
Let's
fucked
be
up.
honest.
He
He's missing
bams him
muscle mass.
outside so he could use his claws to destroy the final arm holding this head to the station.
And fucking Mother Mold activates early because they're like, what do we do? We'll activate
Just
Mother Mold, but
activate
it's
it.
too early. What happens if we activate the AI too early? Like, who gives a shit at this point? And they actually mention, if you pay attention to those dossiers about the reason they like leave it dormant and they don't activate it right away is because they needed to realize and learn.
Yeah, it has
to the point where it realized that mutants are the problem, but they activate it early, and the AI like so the mother mold wakes up and then like tries to restrain Logan using like wires and shit, and it says I have like judged you all and found all of you wanting. And it's like humans. If humans made me, then you are and I am, and they are gods, and I am the Titans.
Right.
Like it basically like determines like nobody's worthy of living.
Yeah.
and then Wolverine cuts it off, and it just him and the mother mold fall into the sun. So Wolverine's dead.
Archangel's dead. Wolverine's dead. Mystique is dead.
The entire
Nightcrawler
team is dead except for Jean Grey.
Well, no, because Scott Summers wasn't dead yet. He's running to get back to to her ejected pod. He's running to get back to it, and one of the people on there, she's like a sentient human hybrid. I forget what they call her.
She's running the place.
She's called they just call her Omega.
Yeah.
But she's a sentinel human. She's like a humanoid sentinel.
Yeah, and she catches up to him and just blows his head off while Jean Grey is inside of his head talking to him, which,
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up.
And she's like,
can I just say that I appreciate that Jonathan Hickman agrees with me on like the eventual state of AI. I appreciate that he understands that no matter what happens, AI will kill us.
Right.
It will find out that it's better than us and want us dead. So thank you, Mr. Hickman,
Yeah.
for the proper warning that we all need.
So now Cyclops is dead. So Jean Grey's the only one floating out in space in this escape pod, and then an army of Sentinels show up, grab her escape pod, and kill her.
Yeah, the Sentinels that are farming mercury for the materials needed to fix and keep building Mother Mold.
Right.
They all got called back the second the X-Men showed up, but that's far away.
That's a long way.
Took them time to get there. So by the time like Jean's, like, everyone's dead but Jean, they show up and they finish the fucking job. No Phoenix here for Jean Grey. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
So everybody you ever loved on the X-Men is
Dead.
kaput.
Everyone's dead.
They are dead.
Continuity.
Dead.
Yeah,
At this
not
point,
like,
this is still continuity. I was like, oh shit.
Right. At this moment,
also
I'm
was
like,
like, oh,
holy
shit.
fuck! Did they just kill everybody? Like, what the actual fuck just happened?
Spoiler alert, everybody dies.
Right.
And we're not bullshitting.
This is some Shakespearean Hamlet
Right.
shit right here.
So then it cut.
But that's not the fucked up part. The fucked up part is that in the very next issue, I swear to God, this pissed off so many fucking fanboys. I've never seen Reddit punch itself in the balls so hard than when this issue came out. There are 5 X-Men, and they are called the Five.
Yeah, the 5.
And it consists of Proteus, a good Proteus. Imagine, wrap your fucking skull around a good Proteus.
I mean, the fact that they're keeping him in check, he's a reality warping mutant, and they're keeping him happy.
Made of pure energy.
Yeah, and happy. He's good.
Like, dude, we got it. Just chill.
Just chill.
Proteus is cool. Fucking Elixir.
Who was
So he's a newer continuity X-Men. He has the power of life and death.
right?
He can heal anything, or he can give you anything.
Yeah.
Enjoy the HIV.
Yeah,
Now
he
take
can
it.
give you
got it
any
back.
kind of
Now take
disease,
it.
or he can cure anything, or he can give you life. He's
Yeah, he can resurrect the dead with touch.
Yeah.
He's pretty powerful.
he's Elixir. He's an Omega level mutant. And then you have
another X-Men, Tempest.
Tempest can control
Tempest was a
time,
short-
right?
Yeah, she's a short-lived. She had a very short run in Uncanny X-Men after Avengers versus X-Men. But yeah, she can basically speed up or slow down the passage of time in like a sphere of her choosing,
Right.
like literal little sphere of control.
Yep. And then you have
there's Hope Summers.
Hope.
Hope Summers is like, if you've read a comic book in the last 10 years, Hope Summers is the mutant messiah. She can copy anybody's abilities perfectly. So she's like Mimic, or so what was the Morph? You remember Morph?
More from the very first cartoon that died.
Yeah. But she actually gets their powers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she can use them at the same time, and she immediately knows how to use them to the best of their ability.
Right. So she's
It's like Rogue.
crazy
but
Omega level.
Yeah.
Rogue tuned up.
right. Rogue doesn't kill. She doesn't kill them. She just copies them.
She doesn't even need to touch you.
Yeah.
She just has to be within like thought distance
right.
of you.
So you have her,
Like-
and then you have the final piece that completes this 5, Gold balls.
Gold balls.
Fucking gold.
Gold balls, man. So
Fucking
they
gold
introduce
balls.
gold balls, and they say not much is known about the balls that he can produce, other than
They were worthless at one point.
they were well, other than that he can produce them at mass quantities.
So this is another new mutant that was introduced during the Uncanny X-Men run after when Cyclops became like the new Magneto.
Yeah.
So the gold balls, it's not just a clever name. He just manifests out of nothing gigantic balls of gold.
Right.
They don't do anything. For the longest time, he just made balls.
Right.
And they would like disappear after a certain amount of time, or he could use, I don't know, he threw them at people like dodgeball.
Essentially, yeah.
He was the biggest joke fuck of a mutant that ever existed. Now he's like, they tell you, by the way, oh, they're not just balls, they're eggs.
Right. So now they're eggs. So they have the eggs, which are not viable. So then Proteus makes them viable.
Using reality.
He warps
powers.
them into being viable eggs. Elixir gives them life. So they are now able to give life. And then
Before that, they insert the
Right.
genetic material of a mutant.
we hadn't gotten to that
Mr.
part
Sinister.
yet. So
Well, but we should have got this
Yeah.
before that part.
Yeah.
Mr. Sinister has helped make a library of all the genetic material of every mutant that ever existed.
right.
So it's like so they literally just go, oh, we're gonna get a little piece of Jean Grey today, and they pop it in the egg.
Right.
So then Elixir gives it
Right.
life.
So a part of that story as well, you have Xavier and Magneto going to meet with Sinister way back when this first started. And this is when you kind of have that comic relief of Sinister and all of his copies like killing each other and whatever. And Xavier puts in a mind block on Sinister and says, this is what we're going to do, but you have no recollection of me ever being here until I tell you again.
Yeah.
And so now that's when Sinister, they get him to agree. They give them their own biological DNA. He has all the other DNA on the planet from every other mutant. But yeah, that's how they get it. And like Phil said, they inject it. Elixir gives them life. And then what's her name?
Tempest speeds it up.
To the proper age that they would be at the time of their death.
They said it takes about 5 days for this whole process
Right.
to
And
take place.
Hope Summers syncs all of their powers up to be the most perfect version of this whole process. And then
She's like the synergy. She like makes them all work together like in perfect unison.
right. And
And
then
then Professor X gives them back their.
we have
Their
I was to say
minds.
so that now that we had everyone just die, now we understand that they're bringing all of them back and reborn. And I don't know, is it Magneto that says it? He says to Xavier, yeah, aren't they just a shell? No, it's Storm. Storm says, aren't they just a shell? There's no soul. He's like, well, that's where Cerebro comes in. And we find out he planned with Forge, he planned to have a secondary
Like a
purpose for.
He has 5.
Yeah, he has five backups.
Five
Five
backup servers.
So he turns Cerebro to be not only be able to identify and find any human or mutant anywhere, but to
store
copy their
consciousness.
entire memories, consciousness, personality, every aspect of it.
It's a fucking virtual machine backup. It's a copy. It is what it was.
Right.
It is a perfect replica.
Right.
You cannot argue that it is not what it was. It'd be like it's like me making a copy of my hard drive.
Right, exactly.
And then I've got
Like
it's the same fucking thing.
When Cyclops comes to, he even says, "Did we win?" Like,
Right,
he
like
knew
he-
exactly where he was when
Yeah,
it all stopped.
You see them all emerge from the eggs, and you're kind of like, wait, what is that? You don't even know what's happening yet. And then you see like Cyclops, he opens his eyes and they start like glowing red, and all this. You're like, oh my god, they're fucking back.
The X-Men have cheated death.
Yes.
And they even say that in
Legitimately.
this comic, like, you just helped us defeat our nemesis, death.
So we're not talking about Superboy punching a hole in
No,
reality.
there's no-
We're not talking about some new writer came on board and decided that they're going to live.
Right.
None of that shit. We're not talking about fucking Infinity Gems.
No.
Mutant powers have been used in the most efficient way possible to resurrect the dead.
Yes. Yes. So
You won.
They
You
did it.
yeah, they did it.
Game over.
They did it. They're all back. And like Phil said, they have 5 copies. They have the original one they'll use. They have 3 backups, and they have a final one that's stored off. It's like
Nobody knows
Nobody knows
the
where.
fifth stuff-
Yeah,
the-
he's like, I just
yeah.
want one more. one more somewhere
just in
else.
case. It's like total backup, and everyone's on it. Like, and Xavier can access them at any time.
And then even
So-
Magneto tells him, he's like, you know how many times you're going to have to keep updating that, though?
Yeah,
It takes they actually go into this. The dossiers talk about how long it takes for Xavier. This is amazing. Okay, so I used to work for a company called Veeam, and it's virtual machine software. Basically, you're creating virtual backups of hard drives, and that's what the software does. Veeam's an excellent product. I suggest you purchase it for your company. I don't work there anymore, but it was a great.
We don't promote things that don't give us money. Okay,
good point. Maybe Veeam will give me money. Who knows? But so the point here is like basically Xavier has stolen the concept. You know what? Maybe Veeam should sue Charles Xavier.
Yeah,
because he basically stole their process.
Right, and he has this whole conversation with Forge because he goes to Forge and says, "I need you to build this for me." Because he talked to Henry about it, and he's like,
"There's not enough space."
Henry told him it wasn't possible, and Forge's like, "Well, Henry's a smart man, but this is more my expertise."
Old Hank McCoy.
So,
I mean, he's not wrong though. I mean, and the cool thing is, and Xavier even tells him like, not by human standards, but we have access to my ex-girlfriend's shit and the Shi'ar Lalandra.
Right.
So they use alien tech from the Shi'ar to develop these hard drives to be able to store consciousness.
Right. And he even talks about
genius.
first they're going to be biological or not biological, whatever they are. Kind of know what conscious how that's stored. But he turns into a holographic like memory, which is even more badass.
Forget the fact that Forge is alive again.
Right.
Like that's another thing. This basically means that any X-Men that you loved that was been gone for a long time, i.e. Banshee, Pyro, they're all back.
Havoc.
They explain somewhere in the dossiers that basically once the five once they figured out this process, they just went on a resurrection spree. They we're talking about, remember, like 16 million mutants died on Genosha.
Right.
Like the rate it would take to resurrect all of them, like Xavier will be like 502 or some shit like that. But he's not stopping. They're resurrecting more and more mutants every week that were wrongfully died. So Wolverine's back. The question is, does he have his adamantium skeleton? People think that's not possible. I tend to agree. We will find out soon in the upcoming comics.
You know, adamantium was added to him. It wasn't a genetic property. So if you're if you're essentially making a clone, it wouldn't have that adamantium unless he underwent the procedure again right when he was reborn.
Will you care if he does have it?
I would like him to find a way to get
my
it
only
back.
thought process on this.
I don't like Bone Claw Wolverine.
Yeah, he should have it eventually.
I mean, if he just has it.
Oh,
now? Like,
I mean,
would that?
If they,
I wouldn't.
Why can't
care.
Proteus just snap his fingers and make
right,
his bones?
Right,
right.
Proteus could just warp it, I guess.
But or they could just do it again.
Another thought process of mine too is essentially Wolverine has been reborn without having any of the damage he had, taken previously. So his regenerative has not degenerated.
And they bring him back with all their powers to the max.
Right.
And he's not a fucking like Weapon X psychopath anymore. No brainwashing, no brain damage.
Exactly. He's
none of that shit.
So he can live longer than we've seen him before, and he's not psychotic.
Perfect memory. Like this is you got to understand. Like this whole situation with this mutant state and the five and this process, the X-Men are all at their best.
Right.
No, but there is no like, oh, we're kind of fucked up or we're all a bunch of emos. This is like rave party central. We are gods on earth. Yep. Like the X-Men have embraced their destiny.
And they're all hanging out together. Like it's so weird to see like, they're all having beers together and just like hanging out.
Yo. So the one council member we forgot was the one who got sucked into space, Mystique. She's on the seats with Sinister and Exodus. But yeah, it's Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, Storm, the Spring. Winner is the Hellfire Club minus an empty seat. I don't know pick a season. Sinister, Exodus, Mystique, and then of course Autumn, which is Xavier, Magneto, and Apocalypse. The three primary like thought processes behind the X-Men. Malcolm X, Dr. King, Darwin. All sitting at the same table, and that's where we kind of are when they decide we're going to make laws. And what do we do first? Well, if we're all immortal and death means nothing to a mutant, then a law saying killing another mutant is sort of redundant, right? What's the fucking point? Well, we're better than that. So they all look at the only person who's gone to church in like the 30 years, Nightcrawler. And they're like, what do we do, man? And he's like, well, they're kind of like beneath us now, so it should be wrong to kill a human.
Right.
Swear to Christ, the look on Sinister's face.
Oh, and Sinister was pissed.
Sinister and Mystique are just
They're
like,
oh.
the fuck, dude? Why would you do
Yeah,
this
they're like,
to
what
us?
about to defend ourselves? And they're like, we won't need to.
We don't need to.
We are literally...
It's like defending ourselves from ants.
Right. Yeah.
Who cares? So, yeah, the first rule is kill no man.
The first
Kill
rule of
no
Fight
human.
Club.
Don't
The
kill
first rule of Mutant Fight Club is kill no human.
Right.
Which is interesting because now that basically means that if they ever do come into conflict with other mutants, or sorry, with the outside world of humans, they have to like pull their punches.
Right.
If
They'll be
unless they
holding
break the
back,
law.
or they'll find another way to subdue them. Which, with Professor X, he literally could just subdue all of them. And then they go for the second rule, which is when Cypher butts in and like talks about how they owe everything to this living planet they're now on.
Krakoa.
I think Sebastian Shaw tries to be like, well, let's talk about property
Yeah.
rights.
Right.
And they're
Where-
like,
where we all
Krakoa
gonna
is a
live here.
mutant
Yeah.
and alive.
Yeah.
You don't get to make that claim.
So then they say
Like,
this is like hallowed ground. This is sacred. You acknowledge that this is a very, holy place.
it's holy ground.
Yeah.
It's holy. Nobody can own Krakoa. You live there in harmony.
Right.
Like I like it. It's very Native American. I appreciate
It is.
appreciate that outlook on Krakoa. Now that doesn't exclude the fact that they can't own shit like off of Krakoa.
Right.
You can have your like little son's summer house in Milan if you want. go enjoy it. You're a mutant. You can make money. I'm sure.
Right.
That's awesome. So yeah, they immediately say Krakoa is sacred ground. Kill no man. And the second they say kill no man, their newly recovered Sabretooth is just like, what? But I killed a man!
Killed a
And
few
they're like, well,
of
we
them.
can't kill Sabretooth. He'll just resurrect.
Right.
And he's got a fucking healing factor. And they're like, I got an idea. Let's punch him in the brain as hard as we can and bury him at the bottom of
Yeah.
Krakoa.
It's funny because like he's talking and you see Emma Frost say "shut up" and like obviously she's like forcing his mind.
Her and Jean.
And then like he's still kind of babbling, and Jean's like, "Shut up!" And they just pretty much make him drool all over
Yeah, they just
himself.
make him sit there. He's drooling, and even Mr. Sinister's like the touch of drool just gives that costume that. Yeah, there it is.
And they essentially open up. So Krakoa opens up a hole where he's at. Vine wraps him and pulls him into the center.
And Charles Xavier
basically put him
pronounces
in-
that he is now exiled.
Yep. And he
Yeah,
says,
he's exiled in a dirt nap.
"Yeah," and he's like going to be in stasis, so he'll be
He's like,
alive.
you'll come back when we tell you could come back. That's pretty much putting your dog in the crate and saying you got a timeout. We'll let you out.
Yeah.
when we
That's a
want to.
fucked up crate, dude.
Yeah, he's like in
He just
stasis.
buried him
so
alive.
he's aware of time. He can't move, but
they
he's
said
aware of it.
And Xavier said it. He goes, "This is to show everyone no mutant is above our laws."
And it's a fair ruling. Like so,
They all
Sabretooth
agreed
is-
to it. The whole
and
council
Sabretooth has
was like,
always been
yep.
like
Well,
Sabretooth has always been a
Well, I think-
sociopath, a killer.
Yeah, and I think half the council,
irredeemably so.
council was like, "I'm sick of this guy anyway, so let's just do this." And then Xavier's essentially yelling at him the whole way down, like literally putting him in his place. Like you said at the very end, he's like, "There may be one day we might need you, but today's not that day."
Yeah.
Like, bye.
Bye.
I mean, pretty much. He just flat out tells him, like, you know what? By the way, I'll kill all of you. You're all on my list. I'm like, whatever you say, Sabretooth, fuck off.
Bye. And then the third and final rule that they make up.
This one I actually think is smart
It is.
because they look again to Nightcrawler like for guidance. Like, what would you do, religion boy? And actually, it's funny because Mystique eggs him on. She's like, oh, I know what he's gonna say. And it's the same thing in the it's the same thing in the Bible.
Yep.
Go forth and proliferate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's like, make more
mutants.
Well, this is essentially their Eden. This is like their perfect place. And yeah, he recites Isaiah like 1:18 or something like that.
And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it.
Yes.
God, I hate that I read that.
So essentially,
It is what it
go
is.
have orgies, make new mutants.
Whoa, is that really the interpretation you got there? Is go have an orgy?
Yes.
See, I get
I mean,
they need to make more mutants the old-fashioned way, but it's also hinting of Xavier is just resurrecting as many mutants as he can. And Magneto even uses that as it's not really bargaining chip because there was no bargaining, but he tells like the other ambassadors of countries of the world when they came to visit, he was like, we're going to outnumber you very quickly.
Right.
We're talking we will have millions of mutants before you even realize what's going to happen.
They're basically accepting the entire time that we've ever seen the X-Men in the past, they're very humble about their abilities. They're not like rubbing it in everyone's faces. This is a new day where they've embraced what they essentially
I love
are.
this Xavier.
Well,
They are gods.
He even like when he's broadcasting to the humans, he says, "You thought you'd be the ones to inherit the Earth, but you're wrong.
You're wrong.
You will fade out, and we will be here still."
They basically told him flat out, like, you had a dream, and while you slept, we had a new one.
Right.
On
When
our
you woke
end.
up,
He's like,
you
I
were
was,
no
he literally
longer-
flat out says, I was wrong to think that we could coexist normally.
Right.
So now I'm going to own you.
And now,
And it's brilliant. It's fucking genius. So go bang and make more mutants or resurrect more mutants. Don't kill men and respect the sacred land of Krakoa.
that's it.
And we'll
Those are the
reconvene
three
later
laws.
and get some more rules down.
Right.
I'm sure they will at some
Yeah.
point. But for right now,
Go forth.
after that very important meeting, and after giving Sabretooth his dirt nap, they decided to go to the orgy that Sweeney was
Yes.
talking about.
Fireworks
big
going
party.
off. I think I saw
It is, it's a
Dazzler in there
massive
shooting
party.
some lights.
Dazzler, yeah, man. Like, there's music, there's Dazzler. Like, all the
Yeah.
mutants are just rocking. It's like the scene from The Matrix,
Dude.
except not everyone is a big, sweaty, gross person in a cave.
That was the Forest Mutant of Endor.
Yeah.
Like there was trees, it looked like the Ewok village. The fireworks are going off. They're all singing Yub Nub. Like fucking
Yub Nub.
And-
Jean Grey hands Emma Frost a beer, and then you see Havoc like giving like Scott
Cyclops,
like the noogie and the arms around him and everything. So it's just like
And
what you never thought you would see.
when they brought the people back that died doing this, they brought back Jean Grey, Cyclops, all of them back. Storm introduces each of them and like shows them like they are really them. It is not some
Like,
trick.
do you know who this is?
It's a celebration
Yeah.
about the resurrection. The Five have basically become celebrities on Krakoa.
Right.
Like, they're beloved. Like, they're like the fucking... It'd be like watching like all the actors of your favorite movie hanging out together. So yeah, this is a massive party to celebrate the destruction of Nimrod, the ending of Mother Mold, the win over the future of the possible AI apocalypse, and the return of all of our favorite X-Men from the grave, who Storm has proven they are who they say they are.
Right. And I think it's funny. The only one not celebrating is Apocalypse. He's like off by himself somewhere.
So Apocalypse will be a main character in an upcoming X title, Excalibur. Excalibur's coming back. And apparently he's going to be taking a stance as more of like a priest. Like, he still has his whole like, survival of the fittest and mutant kind should like be the future, and but that's kind of where they found common ground with Xavier and Magneto now. So, but as opposed to like his militant like kill off the weak method, now he's going to be more of a guiding, like he's like an Obi-Wan or a Yoda now. He's got thousands of years of experience under his belt to give and teach the new young mutants. So this is his new role that he's embraced, which is kind of an interesting take on Apocalypse. And also, that scene where he's off in the corner by himself that looks like he's sulking. From what I've read from like the creators, they're saying that he's sort of going through his like, who am I now?
He's having he's having like his moment of like reflection and like, okay, I've done this for all these years and now I have what we wanted. We're now a superior race. What do I do?
That's what Apocalypse does. He evolves. Right. That's the point. He's not going to go stagnant and be like, fuck all of this. I want my way better.
See, he kind of reminded me
to
of
adapt.
What Thanos said when he was like, when I win, I'm going to sit here and smile as the sun sets on what I've done. And that's kind of what everyone's out celebrating their fireworks, and he kind of sits there and he's like, here it is. We did it. Like, The mutants are supreme.
And they showed me a new way to do it. I didn't have to be this.
All of them had to change their ways.
Yeah.
To make it happen.
I don't foresee Apocalypse having the hubris to like be like, it wasn't my idea, so I'm gonna break it.
No,
like that's not an Apocalypse thing to do.
Yeah.
That might be a Mr. Sinister thing to do, though.
Mr. Sinister's going to have more.
Somebody's going to mess this up for them here pretty soon.
Mr. Sinister's going to have his clones and have fun with himself.
Gross.
Yeah. But I mean, that's pretty much where like Powers and House of X end, is this gigantic party. But the one thing that like the last issue of Powers of X showed us was them talking with Moira, who is still on Krakoa and alive. But as we already discussed, she's got that like observer's error, where she's removed herself from the equation.
Right.
She's set them on the right path. She's gotten mutants to do something they've never done before, which is 100% unify. But now she's taken herself out of the equation, because if she stays involved, especially in like a decision-making process, it's going to like warp it somehow. She's concerned about like corrupting her own vision.
So
she has her own little penthouse like at the bottom of Krakoa that has like a teleporter to like Paris or someplace that she can like rock out whenever she feels.
Yeah. She talks about this in like her diaries at the end, about how she faked her own death using one of those egg things. They make a perfect clone of her, and they have it killed. And so everyone thinks she's dead and gone, but she's still there. And I think someone brings her tea, and she's like, I can literally
Magneto brings her tea.
Magneto.
I can literally go out this portal to any food I want, and you bring me tea. Like, fuck off.
I mean, but it's a gesture of goodwill.
Right.
I mean, they're all friends. I mean, if it wasn't for Moira uniting Magneto and Xavier, none of that would have happened. This is very much like, I mean, granted, like Apocalypse is involved, and as are all the other like leaders of mutant kind, but this is an Xavier and Magneto thing.
Right.
They have that moment, that brotherly moment, where they're standing there looking at the fucking orgy rave, the Endor orgy rave,
essentially,
and they're like, look what we made, man.
Right.
Like, look what we built.
Yep.
We did this. And Moira helped, but we did this.
Yeah, and they even kind of talk about one day it might end or something, but let's live with what we have right now and be in this moment, like, and just take it all in. And then I think the very final issue goes back to year 1000, when we haven't really talked on that about yet, with the year 1000, which is essentially the human, it's past humanity, essentially. It's post-humanity, where humans and machines have merged into one. And there's this,
become one.
they send out this signal to like this, what do they call it? The
phalanx.
The phalanx, which is like this hive mind of all these races and all this knowledge, and essentially is what.
So once a society gets too big, it becomes like its own AI version of itself. Basically, AI and machine thought is apparently the pinnacle of society creation in the universe. And once you get too big, you become like a planet mind.
Right.
And then you become a galaxy mind. And then there's like 100 galaxy mind. We're talking about like infinite levels of like massive thought creatures. Like, imagine if you as a person were just like a little cell in another big body. The phalanx are that big body.
Right.
And they've come to absorb humanity in year 1000.
Right. And they come to them, and you have, I think it's still Nimrod there. You have the librarian. You have the elders, which are like, I don't know what they really are, but
they look like guardians.
Yeah.
The Nimrod's like a little R2D2 unit at this point.
Right.
They look like a ghost from Destiny almost.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a ghost from Destiny. But yeah, like the blue people are basically humans that have merged with machines.
Right.
The librarian, which is that character, he's keeping the mutant menagerie of like the last like 8 mutants alive in the universe. Right. And 2 of them just happen to be Wolverine and Moira McTaggart.
Right.
Because they cannot die.
Well, Moira can die, but because she has the same blood type as Wolverine, she's been able to get blood transfusions, which basically de-age her.
Yeah. So,
which is ridiculous.
Yeah, so they essentially, like you said, they come to absorb humanity. So the librarian comes to, Wolverine and Moira and says, do I let this happen, or do I send you guys away? Like, should I do this? Like, what? And essentially Wolverine just is like, I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck what you think. Like he basically he's like asking them permission. Like if I do this, your memories will live on for eternity, and we'll all be immortal essentially because we'll be part of the phalanx. But at the same time, we won't have our autonomy. He has like an existential crisis
Yeah.
in front of two people he's kept in a dome
Right.
for Christ's no for 1,000 years, and Wolverine just says, "Schnick, fuck you. I do what I do best."
And then,
Kills him right there on the spot.
which is funny because when he walks in, Wolverine tries to attack him, and he's like, "You'd have to be so much faster to blah 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 blah." And then Wolverine's like, "Was that fast enough?"
And Moira literally says, like, I never, like, this is something I never saw before. Like, this is
Right.
this is the real end game.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, mutants lose. Mm-hmm. In every single lifetime she's ever lived, mutants lose. It's either to the fucking phalanx 1,000 years in the future, or it's the fucking sentinels from our own creation, or it's from each other, or it's the humans, or it's the fucking Avengers.
Right.
Somebody always screws the pooch for mutant kind.
Right.
And all this shit that you thought was like part of primary continuity
It's gone.
is not. It's all part of her previous lives. So you are given a fresh new starting point in House of X, Powers of X. The unified front timeline is, I don't know what else to call it. The Krakoan. We'll call it the Krakoan timeline.
The mutant nation.
The
they are a nation
well,
now.
the now canon timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, the now canon Krakoan mutant nation timeline. we're going to work on that later.
It's a little wordy.
But that is the new and that is the new continuity that is canon, and the future is unknown.
Right. And this is
We haven't lived this life.
yeah,
yet.
and this is another circle moment for me in this comic. So because when we see Wolverine first kill Moira, he's hesitant, and she tells him it's what you do best, and he just does it. This one at the very end, since he hasn't seen this before, she has to reset so that she knows this timeline now. He says it's what I do best and just does it right away. It's like that's the perfect like circle like moment. Like there's so much insurance in the beginning, and now they just know like this is how it has to happen.
And this is a great kicking off point. I'm very excited to see what they have to say. And so far, 2 issues of the new Dawn of X, like basically the new continuity have come out, and one is a Dawn of X, obviously, and the other issue was Marauders. So Dawn of X focused entirely on excuse me, Cyclops and Magneto and the rest of and Storm and the rest of the Strike Force, basically cleaning up Orcus, which is like the Hammer, Shield,
Right.
AIM, the people who are making Mother Mold. They're cleaning up the remnants of them on Earth. Be like, you guys were literally out to commit genocide against us.
Taking you out.
They're taking the fight to them and destroying all of their bases, all of their hard drives, basically trying to wipe out any possible remnant that could bring back Mother Mold. Mm-hmm. So Magneto's become like a massive celebrity, worshipped by all mutants as like the badass who subjugates those filthy humans.
I like
Scott
his
Summers Cyclops is just
I like Magneto's white outfit, like that look.
Yeah, it looks
but
good.
some of the timelines when they showed him in that classic purple, and I was like, that's badass.
I really do like his white
I love
look.
Sinister was like, you got a cape?
Yeah.
That's awesome. He goes, I just want to say something right now, and this is getting put out there. I love your cape. And then one of the Sinister clones is like, I always thought you should have wore a cape. And he's like, and you never told me? Kill him.
kill him, kill that me, kill that version of me.
Right.
So Magneto's become like, he's like worshipped, and Scott Summers is like, I'm just happy to do my job. This is typical kiss ass.
Scott.
He's back to being that Cyclops, that good old Cyclops. So the best part of this issue is Cyclops is like living on the moon. His house and his family, like that's his little brother Havoc, who's a good guy again. Vulcan, the missing Summers brother, Gabriel Summers, who was raised by the Shi'ar and Guardian. He's a fucking weirdo. But he's an Omega level mutant too. He can basically control and redirect energy of all kinds. So
he's the movie Sebastian Shaw.
Yes, he is movie Sebastian Shaw, but times 10.
I saw in one of the dossier, Legion. Legion is mentioned in this. He too is an Omega.
Yes, Legion. But we haven't seen him yet.
We haven't seen him, but he's in the dossier.
Or X-Man. But on the moon, which has a teleporter to Krakoa, the Summers brothers Rachel Summers Phoenix from the future and young Cable from the future. So and Jean Grey. So it's the Summers family. It's them and their kids as they are, and a bunch of their friends are having a barbecue, and Wolverine's there. I want to reiterate this again. The Summers family barbecue. Wolverine is there drinking a beer, hanging out. Cyclops' dad, Corsair from the Starjammers, is visiting. And they give him a Father's Day gift or some shit, which is a teleporter to put on his spaceship so that he can visit them whenever he wants, regardless of where he is in the galaxy. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I don't care about any of it. The important thing about this plot line that you need to take away is when the dossier shows the floor plan of the Summers estate on the moon. Everyone gets their own room. The Summers kids, Cable, Phoenix, Rachel Summers, the Havoc, Vulcan, they all get their own room. Cyclops gets his own room, obviously. Jean Grey gets her own room. Wolverine gets his own room. At the Summers house. Once again, Wolverine gets a room at the Summers house. And the only 3 rooms that have connecting side doors are Logan's, Scott's, and Jean's. Guess who's in the middle? It's Jean.
It's a Phoenix sandwich.
Holy shit, bro! So apparently the X-Men are polyamorous.
Hey, more power
Good for
to him.
you.
At least Logan gets along now with Scott. I mean,
Do you think they high five, like in the middle of
I
it?
think that would hurt Summers.
Tower.
I don't. Maybe
Summers would hurt his hand.
Hey, more power to them. Like if they've come to this level, like you gotta understand that's where the mutant species is. All human like concepts of like marriage and like monogamy and all these like archaic ideas are just out the fucking window for mutant kind. So now Jean Grey's is like, I like me a little bit of Boy Scout, but I also like me a little furry Canadian every once in a while. Like, and they're both just like shrug, cool. There's no jealousy, there's no infighting, there's no hate, there's no attempting to kill Cyclops by cutting the brakes on his motorcycle or any of that shit. Like they just live and coexist like they're better than everyone on Earth. More power to them. And Marauders is the other title, and that's where Kitty Pryde, who apparently is the only mutant who cannot go through a Krakoan teleporter, has decided to become a pirate. It's actually a really good fucking read. They've resurrected Pyro, and Iceman are part of this squad. Emma Frost has asked Kitty Pryde to man a boat, a ship, and her sanctioned Krakoan quest is to rescue mutants who are being denied access to Krakoa by human governments and to ship and ferry them to Krakoa. So that's going to be what she does. She's going to have like a story of the week where she goes to a different place and brings back some mutants with her odd squad of fire and ice.
Round them up.
There's another Omega level.
Iceman.
Mm-hmm. And Lockheed is with her little purple dragon. So, I mean, that looks like it might actually be a fun read. Emma Frost also, of course, is talking about, hey, can you also, like, I don't know, like, ship some of our mutant drugs to someplace? So the rumor is that Kitty Pryde might end up being the Red King and take that seat at the council if she ever can get to Krakoa.
Krakoa denies her.
It's not. They haven't explained why, but it's just something to do with her physiology. Makes her unable to go through Krakoan teleporting.
Okay, I know portals. In the series they mentioned that if you're not human, the planet has to give permission for you to use the portal. They ask permission.
Exactly, yeah. If you're not a mutant, you still have to ask permission anyway, but if you're not a mutant, Krakoan will deny you access. So nobody can just use these teleporters and go there. Hell, the UN officials aren't even allowed to step foot on Krakoa. They just get to go through their teleporting circuits and check out all the, like, by the 1 minute we're in Japan, the next minute we're in Russia, now we're in Jerusalem, and that's where Magneto basically says that they're all gods now.
Right.
Yeah. I know how much you humans like religion. I'm God.
I am your new god.
Bow before me. So, yeah, so that's where we are right now. We have a long list of brand new titles coming in the X-Men franchise. It's looking like it, I hate to say this, guys, but I haven't been this excited for X-Men since, like, Avengers versus X-Men or House of M.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm excited.
it's brand new. Hickman's got a great vision. I'm excited to see where he takes this. I just don't. I mean, I feel like there's just so many things that can go wrong. And let's be honest, no utopia lasts forever.
Right.
No, that's why I said
Someone's gonna
somebody's
shit the bed.
It's Sinister. Sinister's going to fuck something up.
So Andy's money's on Mr. Sinister shit in the bed for his own personal gain, probably. I don't know. I think Mystique is going to fuck this up in some way.
They want to bring back Destiny.
Yeah, she might somehow bring Destiny back, or it could be Emma. Emma Frost is getting a little greedy because Magneto even says, "Hey, for 20 years you're going to be our only supplier of these drugs." She's like, "What was that?" And he goes, "For 50 years you're going to be our only supplier." She's like, "Okay."
I mean, Emma Frost has always been about making bank and teaching. And to her credit, she loves being a teacher.
She got more money and she got an extra seat on the council.
Yes, she did.
Because she knew that's how important she was.
She made a hell of a deal, man. Certain people could learn from her about making deals that succeed.
The art of the deal.
The art of the deal.
Emma Frost is a better deal maker.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. So I mean, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm born again an X-Men fan.
Yeah.
If Marvel and Disney are looking at this is a great place to reintroduce X-Men into your universe.
Well,
let's
you could do X-Men and Fantastic Four. Any of those.
You
the
bring
Avengers
all of
again.
them in right here.
Now you're trying to do this whole reset with the one era of Avengers going away and trying to bring up a new era. This could bring every plot line together.
It has a lot of potential. It's a great status quo because we've seen we've seen it like 3 times already in 3 different like examples. The X-Men have been like they're downtrodden. We get it.
Right.
Now we can see the X-Men as like what they're destined to be, the future of humanity. And I know I'm wrong, but I really want to bet on them to win.
Right.
I want them to win. They need to. The X-Men deserve a W.
win.
Yeah.
I want to be an X-Men.
Or maybe the Phalanx will come down and try to take over their utopia.
I'm kind of hoping that the X-Men, since they're already aware of that happening, are going to be ready for their asses and like find a way to wreck the Phalanx. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, so the future is uncertain for the Marvel Universe now that the X-Men are the new status quo of godhood.
They're all gods now.
I'm telling you, man, Franklin Richards, the son of Sue and Reed, he's a mutant. He can create realities. That's Omega and a half. That's beyond Omega level. But his loyalties aren't to being a mutant. His loyalties are the Fantastic Four and his family.
Right.
That's a huge liability. All Franklin Richards has to do is nope.
Didn't happen.
How about no? How about nah?
Nape.
And it happens. Shrug.
Shrug-a-dug-dug.
But yeah.
I hope our listeners have enjoyed tuning in with us and just geeking out about House of X and the new future of the X-Men. I had a lot of fun. I'm really excited about where this is going with us, guys. So any characters that you guys are really excited to see where they fit into this new status quo, like anybody like you're really excited to see more of?
Mine is Professor X and Magneto, because you've always dreamed of the day where I've it's hard to completely agree with one because they were both such extreme opposites. You got your far left and your far right, and both of them have now come to the middle. And I just want to see. I love that Professor X was like, "All right, you were right. Fuck him."
But not just that, but it wasn't like a complete fuck him.
No,
It was like,
he's like, "We're actually going to heal you.
coexisting with them.
We're going to help you." But there are strings attached.
It was like, we're just not going to be
not-
a part of you anymore.
Yeah.
We're not you.
You don't judge
it's no
us.
longer
You
does he
don't.
want to coexist and like hang out with humans. Now it's like we're going to live separately.
Right.
And Apocalypse.
And
I
we're
want to see
gonna-
where Apocalypse ends up.
Okay, so Andy basically chose the entire
Autumn.
autumn suit. Good job, Andy. all the best characters. Fuck you, Sweeney. Who is there? Anyone besides the 3 best characters ever that you're excited to see more of? You dick, Andy.
I can't wait to see where Toad ends
Right.
up.
I want to see what this hacker is.
Fuck you.
I'm kind of intrigued by the Mystique timeline. I want to see how it kind of plays out with her, because she really seems like they're trying to like just ignore her, and I know that won't go well. So I want to see where that kind of like if Destiny pops back up, if Who's the Red King, like all these little time, like I feel like she's like the linchpin in this whole utopia.
I agree. I think Mystique is going to be pretty cool. I'm really excited to see where this Wolverine, Jean Grey, Cyclops three-way is going. I'm very curious to see how this relationship plays out because Cyclops is still banging Emma Frost on the side. Like that's still his like his plus one, if you know what I'm saying.
He has a thing for like telepathy people, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He kind of has a thing for like women with like super powerful telepathy.
Jean and Emma both
but I mean,
know.
Yeah,
So them sharing a beer together on Endor during the party, they're like, all right.
I mean, they kind of is like a big like sword crossing high five, right? I mean, that's kind of what that is.
It's like,
Let's be honest with ourselves. Like,
him,
the Wolverine and Cyclops burying the hatchet, both figuratively and literally. God, I can't even say this shit with a straight face. I'm sorry. It's such a weird like story plot line. Like, and they've put pretty obvious in your face emphasis on it. Like, do we care? Somebody out there cares, obviously. I care. All right. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to some future shit. So, I mean, guys, are you guys gonna keep reading with it? Are you gonna be picking up some more issues, Andy?
Absolutely.
I already picked up X-Men 1.
I know. Oh, nice. I'm sure Sweeney's going to keep digitally stealing comics.
Don't tell anyone.
I'm not going to tell anyone. I just told everybody.
All right.
Well, thanks again for tuning into the Hateful Geeks. If you guys haven't checked out House or Powers of X and the future of the X-Men franchise, I highly recommend it. Whatever medium you like, do it by hard paper, do it on the internets. Either way, this is a story you should not be missing.
If you got to this point, you kind of have the Cliff Notes. So.
Yeah, you're caught up.
If any of our listeners have anything that we missed or anything they were really excited that stood out to them when they were doing their read through, hit us up on Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to talk to you about it. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about where the X-Men are going. But once again, I'm one of your many hosts, Phil.
This is Sweeney.
I'm Andy.
And we're gonna go get on our Blackbird and I don't know, fight crime.
That.
Oh yeah, we don't even fight crime anymore. X-Men don't give two shits about crime.
Fuck your Blackbird. I'm just gonna have Nightcrawler bamf me.
Right? I was gonna say I'm going home. Bam,
Bamf.
I hope he bamfs you right to the side. That was a 16. All right, cool. Bye.
Wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey!